I want to know from you, how did you discover a gap in the market that you saw that could be a real great potential to start a business? What was the proviso of that?
Well, I think it's a way a lot of businesses start, Marty, is that people work as employees and they think they can do it either better than their boss or they're frustrated with the way the industry is being done or run. And Greg and I were exactly the same. We were two accountants many years ago, and we started an accounting firm as a side hustle called RB Tax. And we would come together after work and just be frustrated with, technology is not up to date with where it needs to be. People aren't getting appreciated and valued. They're being charged too much for the services. And we basically started where all good businesses should start, and that's putting together a business plan. And as lame and boring as that may sound, is the reason that businesses can be successful, I find, is when they've started with a strong plan from the very start by identifying a gap in the market and then figuring out all the bits and pieces and the intricate parts that go into that puzzle to get to market, to take their product or service live.
What was the gap you discovered? What was the thing you could see that you could do better?
Relationships. I think accounting and what we offer is trying to make it easy for people to understand, having a relationship with your accountant or your advisor and paying the right price for it. I think there's a lot of people out there that are ripped off and charged a lot of fees and don't get a lot of return for what they're paying for. And we just stripped it right back to the start and said, well, how do we provide a service where we get paid appropriately for the value we give, but a client also feels comfortable picking up the phone and calling us or sending an email and wants to have a relationship with their advisor? Because that's where we find the best outcomes happen, is when clients are comfortable talking to their advisor, whether it's their accountant, their broker, or whatnot. But that was the gap we identified, and that was where we started to bolt it all together from there.
So how long did it take before you knew you wanted to run the business to when you took action to do it? Because it's a courageous step, and it's not an easy one for people to take. You generally have this idea for a while, but what was the time frame for you?
Look, a couple of meetings over several beers, or Greggy was into his Scotch and Cokes, and that was just to hash out all those extra finer details. Because I think when you go into business, a lot of the stuff that you don't take into consideration is, what's my structure? Am I going to be a company or a trust? Most people start as a sole trader. They register an ABN online and a business name, and away they go. So we started with that. We wanted to map out the correct structure for us. So fortunately, as two accountants in the room, we didn't have to go and seek further advice from someone else. But structure was amongst one of the first things, because we can't really start going out and registering our domain and getting insurance and doing all those things that come next until you have your ABN.
So what do you think, if someone's starting their own business, what's the better structure to stay? If they're an employee going into a business and they want to test the business out, what do they do? What's the first step on structure?
Very general and at a very high level. The bee's knees structure is always going to involve a company and a trust. Now, a company gives you asset protection. It's got a capped tax rate of 26% and going lower. And it gives you that flexibility of minimizing your tax and protecting your assets, because the company is its own legal structure. It's not Marty V out there with his ABN. It's MV Proprietary Limited running the business. So you're separating your stuff, and your house stays safe if all goes to plan. The reason the trust is involved is either the trading trust or an ownership trust is same thing. It's giving you flexibility into distributing to family members to lower your tax, or to trade through that entity to take the money out without worrying about paying wages to yourself if you are an individual. So most people, though, Marty, will start as a sole trader. They'll register an ABN. It's the cheapest and most cost effective. A lot of people don't want to jump into registering a company and a trust and spending thousands of dollars when they're not quite sure that they're going to be able to prove their concept and get their product or service out there and be successful. So they have the mindset of, look, I'm not going to spend a couple of grand yet. I'm going to test the model and get an ABN, which is free to do online, or a couple of $100 through an accountant. And then from there, prove the concept. And what I'd always say to people that come to us with sole trader ABN is, if you've proven the concept, it's time to restructure. You don't want to stay like that for too long, because that's when, if something does go wrong and you get sued as a sole trader, or you can lose it all and you can lose your home.
Okay, so it's on you. Yeah.